The Panthers had a chance to take over sole possession of the NFC South lead heading into Thanksgiving, and instead the offense laid yet another egg. Let's break it all down right here on Locked On Panthers. That's the wrong thing.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show here on YouTube, where I am live right now and live following every single regular season game. If you ever miss an episode here on YouTube, you can always listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And of course, it's always going to be there in your feeds on YouTube. Today's episode, Locked On Panthers, is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Carolina Panthers 9, the San Francisco 49ers 20, as the Panthers, I guess, weren't ready for prime time, losing an opportunity to take over sole possession of first place in the NFC South. The good news, I suppose, is that all they do is fall to 6-6. They're still right there in a battle between Tampa Bay for the division crown. But this one certainly was disappointing because of all the things we talked about throughout the week of how the Panthers offense finally looked like the offense everyone had been waiting for. The passing game that we saw back in week 18 in Atlanta, that we saw in the second half of the season, it had finally arrived and more. We all knew that 448 yards passing was not going to be the norm, that likely 300 yards passing was likely not going to be the norm. But going right back to this, I suppose we should have expected it. I did say that, if anything, last week was probably an anomaly from all that we had seen throughout the year from the passing offense here in Carolina. But the hope was that, all right, it's second half of the season. Bryce had his gutsiest, his best performance of his career. Maybe this is him finally turning the corner. Maybe with T-Mac out there, with Xavier Legette finally got into his rhythm, with Jalen Coker back healthy, that this was going to be the time for this passing offense to take off in the final 7 games of the season. I guess not, because that is not what we saw today as the offense, quite frankly, they laid an egg. They were awful. And in a game where in the first half, 3 straight possessions, Brock Purdy threw an awful interception, and you could only muster 3 points. 3 points on 3 takeaways in the first half. And not just 3 points, they had 3 first downs total, y'all, in the first half, 72 yards. That is the lowest total yardage in a half so far this season. Whether it's first half, second half, the lowest. And this is the 6th time, by the way, they've had less than 100 yards total yardage in a half this season. That is so bad. 3 first downs, 3 points. And we talked about this on Friday. The Niners were a team that had 15 turnovers like Carolina. They actually had a -5 turnover margin heading into this game, which was worse than Carolina's -4. Brock Purdy had 5 total turnovers in 3 starts this season. He has not taken care of the football. So this was an opportunity to where the defense absolutely could have done what they did. And what the offense needed to do then was capitalize, which they were not able to do. After that first interception, which, mind you, comes off of the first drive that Carolina had. Dave Canales had a decision on 4th and 4 near midfield to go for it. He decides to punt the ball. ESPN's analytics are saying to go for it. Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are both there on the broadcast saying to go for it. He decides to punt. It works out for him because Jaycee Horn gets an interception. Fantastic play, ripping away from Juwan Jennings, and Bryce Young, the Panthers offense, is set up in plus territory. They get into the 2-yard line. It's first down and goal. You have an opportunity to hand the ball off. Instead, they drop back. Bryce is looking for Mitchell Evans. Possibly, had he thrown the ball earlier, he could have hit Mitchell Evans, but Jair Brown sitting there the whole time watching him. Bryce throws it, it gets intercepted, and the Panthers come up with nothing when they had an opportunity to tie the game at 7-7. But do not fret, because Brock Purdy throws another interception on that next drive, and the Panthers go promptly 3 and out. Tetairoa McMillan with an egregious drop. Had a couple of those today. That's been a problem for him this season, a bad drop, but you're only down 7-0 at that point in time, and it's not ideal, but at least when that interception occurred, you weren't in plus territory. Jaycee Horn gets another interception of Brock Purdy, who is, I don't know, just laser focused on his receiver, Ricky Pearsall, at that point in time. JC reads it perfectly, intercepts him. Panthers once again set up in plus territory. Bryce able to dump it off a couple of times to Chuba Hubbard, gets into the red zone, and they get nothing out of that. An interesting third down call there by Dave to throw it out to the flat. That's a loss of yardage for Chuba. They settle for a 25-yard field goal. 3 takeaways, 3 points. That's just not going to get it done at any level of football, especially when you're playing on the road in prime time against the Niners. And this may not be the vintage Niners team that we've seen over the last couple of years because of the banged up guys they have, like Fred Warner not playing in this game, Nick Bosa not playing this game. Either way, that's still a team that was beatable today because their quarterback was awful. Brock Purdy has not looked good this season. The numbers, we went over this the other day, when you look at Mac Jones and Brock Purdy in this offense, they're slightly better with Brock, but Brock is turning the ball over. And anytime tonight, at least when it started off, he was throwing the ball 15-plus yards down the field. He was throwing it to the other team. And all you could do was get 3 points. 3 first downs in 72 yards. In the passing game, reverted right back to what we've seen all season long. Bryce Young, 18 of 29 for 169 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The first one clearly on Bryce. The second one, they were saying it on broadcast, and I didn't even see it in real time, but upon further review, very clearly, T-Mac is getting held there, and that should have been a holding. If the ball was not out, if the ball was out already, that's a pass interference. Like, that has to be called. And that is a play that certainly decides the game potentially, because Carolina could have maybe kicked the field goal, as they opted to do later on from 57 yards. Talk about that momentarily. They could have kicked the field goal, got the ball back, and had their opportunity to potentially tie the game. But instead, it's 49ers ball, and that's one less opportunity Carolina has to put points up on the board. Now, the game was lost, though, in the first half, when they converted 3 interceptions into 3 points. Like, you cannot win football games that way. And we saw that. And we talked about throughout the week, was last week a mirage? Was it just a 1-week thing? And this was not going to be any sign of what's to come. It certainly feels that way after what we saw today. And if you look at the Falcons' passing totals that they've allowed the quarterbacks this season, it shows you that, especially for that secondary, what happened last Sunday, it ain't the norm. Baker Mayfield had 167 yards against them. J.J. McCarthy, who is god-awful, had 158. Bryce Young, first time around, the Panthers' offense really wasn't good in that game, had 83 yards total in the second half, had 121 yards. Marcus Mariota had 156. Josh Allen had 180. Daniel Jones had 152. Tua Tagovailoa had 205. Oh, sorry, that's Mac Jones, rather, had 152. Tua Tagovailoa had 205. Drake May had 259. Daniel Jones had 255. Bryce, 448. Tyler Shuck this past Sunday, 243. So over the last 5 weeks, the passing defense has not been as good in Atlanta, but you see all those numbers. Only one of them has a 4 at the beginning, and that was last Sunday down in Atlanta, making it feel even more so 8 days removed, like it was just a fluke. That was a mirage. It just a miracle that it even happened. I just don't understand. Like, I hadn't understand all throughout the week how you can have the kind of passing performance you had last week against a secondary that had given up next to nothing in the passing game all year long. A edge rushing group that's one of the top sack producing and pressure producing in the league. How you can have that kind of performance and then do something like this. And I came to the conclusion that it must be Dave Canales. And when you looked at today and how things played out, seemed to be pretty conservative. And it took until they were down 2 scores in the second half to start trying to get some quick passes. and try to take a couple shots down the field. And what do you know, that led to a touchdown. And then they're trying it again. And then the interception happens. Should have been a penalty. They didn't get the call. Too little, too late, Dave. Too little, too late. When you're down, it's when you decide, finally, let's go ahead and try to throw the ball. Like last week, like against Miami, like with Dallas, you had no choice. So when you're in game script, let's run it here, let's throw it here, dump it off, but let's not do anything up tempo. Let's not do anything to stress the defense. Let's just lay back. I don't understand. I really don't. And some of the decisions that Dave made today are ones that rightfully should be questioned. I mentioned this beginning of the game, opting the punt there on the opening drive. It worked out because Jaycee got the interception when San Francisco was deep back in their territory. But that's one of those situations where it's Monday night. You're in prime time. You're sitting here at 6-5 with an opportunity on the road against a better team to take over sole possession of first place in the NFC South, and you're playing it safe instead of going for it and trying to put the defense, which has been banged up in conflict, you punt the ball. Again, it worked out as far as getting the ball back in plus territory, but I didn't love that. Not running the ball there on 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. You have Rico Dowdle. You have Chuba Hubbard. And did you notice today the running back rotation came back, and it came back in a way that actually made sense, unlike what we saw against the Jets and against the Bills, right? It didn't make any sense the way they did it then. Tonight, it did make sense, even though Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle had 9 carries total. 9 carries for 54 yards. What's 54 divided by 9? I should know that off the top of my head. I don't. 54 divided by 9. That's 6. Exactly. Should have known that. 6 yards per carry. And they got 9 total carries tonight. How does that make any sense? Why are you throwing it 29 times and handing it off 9 times to those guys who both 6.3 yards per carry for Rico, 5.3 yards per carry for Chuba? Both of those guys look good tonight, and they got 9 total carries. It's nonsensical. And I know it came out and with the keys of victory said, let Bryce cook. He didn't let Bryce cook. He didn't hand the ball off to 2 running backs that were obviously game tonight. I don't get it. The 2-point conversion, had no problem with that. That's what you do when you have any sort of roughing penalty or a personal foul there. When the ball's moved from the 2 to the 1, you go for it. Do you like the play call? I don't know. Maybe hand it off in that situation when you're getting 6 yards per carry from your running backs tonight. Jalen Coker was open. Bryce missed him. And then opting to kick from 57 yards instead of going for it on 4th and 8. Hell, they have a better understanding of the win. I wasn't there in Santa Clara very clearly as I'm at home right now. I don't know what the win situation was. I don't think that's one of those stadiums that you're trying to kick long field goals from. It's not the same as Candlestick back in the Bay, but still, really? 57 yards? Let's go for a career-long field goal with our rookie kicker instead of just going for it on 4th and 8. I didn't love a lot of what Dave Canales did tonight. And if anything, you want to talk about the Panthers being exposed, maybe he got exposed. Because Kyle Shanahan is a dude who has a ton of injuries to his best players and even just ancillary players on that roster. And that team is sitting here at 8-4 right now. And that standard has not dropped off. And Carolina's still building. Don't get me wrong. I understand. They're still building. But days like today really make me wonder, are they going to be able to get over the top with this guy as a head coach? And as the play caller in particular, as a head coach, maybe fine. But as a play caller, a lot of things leave you wanting so much more than what you got from Dave tonight. And some of those decisions, the play calls, all of it, it was not great. Obviously, I cannot absolve Bryce Young of any blame because he was not good in this game. I understand all of that, but y'all, we saw how it played out. That's just unacceptable performance from an offense that's trying to be a playoff team. And if that's what they're going to do, which is what they've done pretty much all season long, hard to believe that in the final couple weeks of the season, especially with the Rams coming to town on Sunday, that they're going to be able to muster enough wins to truly be a threat to Tampa over the next, 5 weeks of the season. So tough loss, of course, but just one loss. We'll see how they bounce back. With some of the defense, though, they were fantastic in this game, especially in the first half. But then just injury after injury in the second half. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, do this. Just wait for Duke or Carolina or some blue blood like that to play a crappy team in basketball. You bet $5 on them, get money line win, and $300 of free money. Basically, that's all you got to do. So take my advice if you want the free bonus bet. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back here on Locked on Panthers, thank you to the 241 of you who are live with me right now on YouTube. The Panthers blowing a golden opportunity to take over first place in the NFC South, losing 20-9 on Monday night against the San Francisco 49ers. And you can't blame the defense. For all the things that we have seen from this defense over the last couple of seasons, this was one of their better performances in the first half with those 3 interceptions. Jaycee Horn, hats off to him. At the very least, the one thing that we can take away from this game, at least not us, but the viewing audience across the country who do not watch the Panthers play, the one thing that they can at least take away is that, damn, Jaycee Horn's a damn baller. 5 interceptions so far this season, had 2 today. He's tied for the interception lead in the NFL. Had an interception of Brock Purdy on the first play of the second drive for San Francisco. Just went up there, ripped the ball away from Juwan Jennings. Yeah, it was thrown behind him, but a strong, great play by JC. As we know, Bryce Young throws an interception. Panthers can't capitalize with that great field position. Then the next drive, I don't know what Brock Purdy's really doing here. He steps up in the pocket, when he's been pressured, has an opportunity to just run for the first down. Hell, he could have just dumped it off to George Kittle, who had a defender about 3 yards behind him, but I'm sure his big ass would have been able to run away from him and bowl through some guys and probably score a touchdown on that play. Instead, Brock Purdy just floats it up to Ricky Pearsall in the end zone. But mistake, buddy, intercepted by Mike Jackson. So great play there for Carolina. And then the next drive, Brock Purdy steps back, rips one over the middle, trying to get to Ricky Pearsall. And then that ball also intercepted by Jaycee Horn, who ended up after that play apparently puking on the sideline. Now, I did not see him get hit in the head on that. I think he just easily got out of bounds, really untouched. Maybe like someone got a fingernail on him. But other than that, didn't see any reason to why he would have been out with a concussion. So I don't know when that occurred in that game, but he went out with concussion after that, was throwing up on the sideline. That was reported by Laura Rutledge on the ESPN broadcast. And that's when really the defensive injuries started to pile up. Now they happened a little bit earlier than that, but you look at the way they had to finish this game. JC did not play a single snap in the second half because of the concussion. Corey Thornton, who got the start for the second week in a row at nickel ahead of Shaw Smith-Wade, he moves to the outside, but then he injures his ankle on the opening possession for the defense in the second half. And on the next play after that, Christian McCaffrey to that side where Corey Thornton was at, he runs in for a 12-yard touchdown. And that's something they brought up on the broadcast, that when you start losing cornerbacks, especially guys as physical as JC and as Corey Thornton, but in particular JC, who help you out in run defense, like you're going to have a tough time stopping guys like Christian McCaffrey, who had a solid game. And hell, man, Kyle Shanahan apparently been listening to the pod. They use him, abuse him, and lose him mentality that I'm always talking about. It's in full force there. It looked like Matt Rule and Joe Brady had Christian McCaffrey all over again. I ain't mad at him, but damn, it hurt me to watch McCaffrey take all his hits tonight, as they are absolutely running that dude into the ground. So we'll see how that plays out for CMC. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Good to see him and Roger Craig, who should be in the Hall of Fame, dapping up before the game, but obviously would love for him to still be here in black and blue. That's not the case, of course. But yeah, then Shaw Smith-Wade, he has to come in at nickel once Corey Thornton moves to the outside. But then when Corey gets injured, Shaw's on the outside. Lathan Ransom, he comes in at safety. And then Teron Merrick comes to play big nickel. That's how they had to finish the game in the secondary today. So that's going to be a position group to monitor throughout the week. And God, if they don't have Jaycee Horn on Sunday, when you have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua coming to town, let's talk about that later. Let's not even think about that right now. There's other things to worry about, I suppose. Yeah, it's going to be a problem if JC is not able to clear concussion protocol. And it's not ideal to play a Monday night game and then have a player have a concussion. So we'll see how that plays out the rest of the week. So he was not able to finish this game. Claude Sherlis, who was wearing the green dot starting at linebacker for the second week in a row, he left in the first half with a concussion, was ruled out. Chris Barnes, who was elevated to the active roster for the practice squad, his third time. So they're going to have to sign him to the active roster if he's ever to be able to play on the active roster again this season. He ended up wearing a green dot. Bam Martin Scott, who did make a nice play there in the second half with that TFL of McCaffrey, and then Shaw Smith-Wade had one right after that. He got the bulk of the reps at the end of the game there with Chris Barnes. So the linebacker position down their top three guys. We'll find out where the shoulder is at with Trevin Wallace throughout the week here. I'm thinking it's one of those things where it's just pain tolerance, and he tried to play through it. Got a little bit worse on him, and he's wanting to have 2 weeks to sit out. We'll see if he's good to go on Sunday because they're going to need him. I don't think it's going to matter either way, but they're going to need him. And then as far as Christian Roseboom goes, the hip and the hamstring, we'll wait to see there. And then Claude Sherlis, much like Jaycee Horn, suffering concussion on a Monday night, driving back cross country. Tuesday's their off day anyway. I don't know how they're going to go out the week with Thanksgiving. They're going to probably practice on Thursday to have a meal with their families later on. Yeah, not good situation there defensively with the injuries. And that's really when they started to let things go in the second half, where they only gave up still 10 points after halftime. It just, they couldn't stop the run because some of those guys in the secondary and at linebacker all went down with injury. And that's when you started to see more of those chunk plays from McCaffrey, from Brian Robinson Jr., and the rest of the 49ers offense that really wasn't that great today. Like Brock Purdy again was not good, and McCaffrey was solid. Let me look at his numbers today as overall 24 rushing attempts, 89 yards, 3.7 yards per attempt. So, like, that's not anything crazy at all. And it had 7 receptions, 53 yards, 7.6 yards. So, another 100-plus yard from scrimmage game for CMC. That's what he does. He's a good player. We know that he's a great player. Going to be a Hall of Famer one day. Would have loved to see him finish off his career in Carolina. That's not the case. But he didn't really do anything special. He's a dude. We know that, but it's not like he's breaking off any of those big time plays. And that's something they brought up in the broadcast, that there's really not been a lot of chunk plays from the 49ers offense in this season. And we even saw that tonight. So the Panthers defense, they did their job. They got 3 takeaways. Anytime you get 3 takeaways, you should win the game. And they didn't. So the Panthers, first time this season, they've won a turnover battle and they have lost the game. And also first time that they have won the coin toss and they have lost. So that is no longer a stat we can use the rest of the season. And time of possession, another thing I want to bring up just when looking at the game today, and that's when it becomes a war of attrition. We see that throughout the season with teams and how they have all the injuries. San Francisco, 37 minutes and 42 seconds they had the ball. Carolina, 22 minutes, 18 seconds. So that's a big disparity, and it mattered tonight as we saw the defensive injuries for Carolina. So hopefully for all the guys who went out, they'll be good to go come Sunday, but that will be something we'll monitor the rest of the week here on Locked On Panthers. The Panthers, I suppose, weren't ready for primetime. We'll see if they're ready for the rest of the season. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
A blown opportunity for the Carolina Panthers on Monday night as they were not ready for prime time, I suppose. It's not like they went out there, it got blown out and absolutely embarrassed themselves. No, they did not. At least the offense did not cover themselves in glory tonight. The defense, I thought they played well. You give up 20 points to a Shanahan offense. I think that's a good effort. You have 3 interceptions. That's a good effort. The offense, what they did tonight was poor. Again, 72 yards total in the first half, 3 first downs, 3 points they were able to muster off of those 3 Brock Purdy first half interceptions. It's never going to be good enough. It's just not going to be. The game plan, the execution, all of it was not nearly good enough as they lay an egg offensively. Now, looking at the playoff picture for the Panthers at this point in time in the NFC South, they fall to 6-6. The Bucs are 6-5. Panthers have their bye after this upcoming Sunday against the Rams. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I think this team's going to beat Los Angeles. I've been saying this for weeks now. That's a game I didn't think they were going to have any chance at all. And after watching the offense play this way, looking what Tampa did last night against that Rams defense, granted it was in LA, I don't see how they're going to have success. I really don't. And we have seen them bounce back before and find a way to win against a Green Bay Packers team that we thought was much better than Carolina. I don't think the Packers are that good. I think the Rams are very clearly the best team in the NFL this season. The Patriots, they're really good. I'm still kind of sitting here, as much as I don't want to say this about Drake May, I don't think Drake's going to necessarily fall off, but I'm just waiting to see a team that was so bad last year with a good head coach in Mike Vrabel, a great head coach Mike Vrabel, and a good quarterback in Drake May. I don't know if I'm buying it as far as them actually being a Super Bowl contender. The Rams, I'm all in, baby. I'm all in on that. And it's going to be a bad, bad situation for Carolina if they're not going to have Roseboom, the former Ram. They're not going to have Trevin Wallace. If Jaycee Horn's not going to play in that game, already knowing they play a ton of zone, they keep JC on one side, they keep Mike Jack on the other. So Puka or Devontae are going to be cooking somebody. And if it's not going to be JC out there, and it's not going to be Corey Thornton with the ankle, we'll see how that works out as well. If it's Mike Jack and Shaw Smith-Wade, good night, man. Just, I don't see how they can win in that situation. So going into tonight, it was either be 7-5, have first place, sole possession of that, and then be 7-6 going in the bye because they weren't going to beat LA. Now you're going from 6-5 to feeling really good about yourself, potentially being in first place, to now losing back-to-back games because I just don't see how they're going to beat LA. And I'm not trying to be negative, but like, y'all, have we seen the Rams play? Let's just be honest here. So the best case scenario for them where they sit is that they get to 7-7 with 3 weeks left to play, 2 games at home, 1 against Tampa, 1 against Seattle, and then at Tampa as well. If you're 7-7 heading into the final 3 weeks of the season, and if you win those 3 with 2 of them being at home, you go to the playoffs. I would think you would take that. So obviously, this is frustrating to see the offense play as well as they played last Sunday, then to go right back to what they have been all year long in hell, what they've been the last couple of seasons. What we saw tonight is far more indicative of who the Carolina Panthers are offensively than what we saw last week. That's something we see once a year. We saw it against Atlanta last year. We saw it against Green Bay the year prior than that. We don't see those performances, especially with Bryce Young at quarterback. And I'm not trying to put it all on Bryce. It's an offensive failure overall. And a lot of it, I think, lays at the feet of the head coach, who's also the play caller. And then after that, it's got to go to the quarterback, who has shown time and time again to not give you the ability to have a consistent passing game. And that has to change. So they still have 5 more weeks to evaluate what they have there in their quarterback. 1 week, he's the worst ever. Time to get rid of him. The next week, oh my God, maybe he's actually going to be the dude. 2, oh, well, here we go again. It's a vicious cycle. I'm kind of sick of being on this merry-go-round of, is he good? Is he bad? Can he call plays? Actually, maybe he's good at, I'm tired of it. Can I just get some consistency? But maybe we've gotten consistency. Maybe we already have it. The consistency is, this is what they do. They don't produce a effective passing offense week in and week out. Every once in a while they can do it. But overall, this is what it is. One of the worst passing attacks in the NFL. But thankfully, the defense has been better this year, because if had the defense not improved, we would not be talking about potentially this team getting to 7-7. And that's a big assumption, because they already lost New Orleans one time. We'll see they can beat them a second time around. New Orleans already showed you they can stop the run against Carolina. That's the one thing that Saints defense can do. And they showed you they can also stop the pass. So we'll see how that plays out. But at some point in time, it would be nice for this team to not just be able to bounce back off an 0-2 start, and to be able to bounce back off of losses against the Patriots and the Bills and an embarrassing loss against the Saints. It'd be nice for them to just be able to handle success, to build upon that, and not just be beating the Dolphins, beating an average Cowboy team who are right there at your level, and beating the Jets. It'd be nice if you could actually go on the road and beat a team like the 49ers with all that was on the line tonight. They're just not there yet. And that's fine, I suppose. It's frustrating because it's been since 2017 since they've been to the playoffs. It's been since 2015 since they won a division. So I get it. But this is where they're at for now. And there's still 5 games left. Season's not over. Still plenty left to play for. But this one certainly was a bummer for all those that were excited about the possibility that with Baker Mayfield, who has that AC sprain in his non-throwing shoulder, which may cost him at least 1 week, he'll be fine. Take a shot, put a harness on, he'll be able to play. So I'm not really worried about Baker missing a lot of time. Carolina's going to have to go and take it from him and the rest of that Bucs team if they're going to take over the division crown this year. So minor setback tonight. Going to be another minor setback on Sunday. Get healthy, lick your wounds in the bye, come back, beat New Orleans, and then 3 weeks, 2 against Tampa, 1 against Seattle for a chance to go back to the playoffs for the first time since 2017, and potentially a chance to win a division for the first time in a decade. It's all right there in front of them. Just yet another humbling reminder of the Panthers are close, but not close enough and not there yet. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, where maybe tomorrow on Wednesday, because this is Tuesday's show for the people watching live. Maybe on Wednesday, I'm going to do a weekly Wednesday mailbag. I don't really know what my plan is for the rest of the week. So go ahead and send in mailbag questions at me, DM me over on Twitter and over on Blue Sky at Julian Council. I'm certainly going to react to whatever Dave has to say after reviewing the film, any sort of injury updates, which he probably won't give us because that's how he operates. But we'll talk about some of that. Maybe not look back at the good, bad, and the ugly. So just send me some questions in. We'll see how many good questions there are, if there's any that I really want to get into. If not, we'll do it next Wednesday. But either way, this is going to wrap up the edition. So be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And I'll talk to y'all on Wednesday.